Thank you. Good evening. Dear love, I wonder if you will find me at the mercy of God, reconciled and rectified to be a reflection of His glory. I wonder if you will find me inexplicably odd, delving into the word delivered from, but not defined by my story. I wonder if you will find me where the love of God meets a soul that needs saving, or a soul that has a craving and then satisfies it, sets it apart and sanctifies it. I know that you will not find me in a perfect Eden where Adam found his wife, but at least find me where enemies get even, where death meets life. Find me in that gray area where wrong wrestles right, where darkness battles light. Remind me that this is not a flesh and blood fight, but a battle of spirits. Will you lure me to the lair of a tormentor who knows no limits? Will you drag me to his throne, screaming, kneeling, asking, Jehovah Rapha, where is my healing? Find me healing. I know that I do not want you to find me broken, or else you will take credit for the work of my feet as I rise, or you will take credit for my first words spoken through lips previously cursed, lips previously pursed in firm refusal to speak or eat. No, find me speaking, debating trivialities with the ceiling, unchained like Paul and Silas from the silence that once threw me in the throes of defeat, the throes of being considered a good woman. Dear love, I wonder if you will find me feral, godless and lawless, not quite Aphrodite or Livaexi, neither porcelain deity nor forgetful witch, not Adam's rib, small, clean, white, as seen in the dissection hall as out of body specimen. Instead, a myth, a revolt, a riot on legs, a hymn hummed slowly, a woman howling at all 14 moons on Neptune, a woman swallowing the earth in June, ending the year midway, a woman last seen at the pool of Bethesda, tempting the water to drink her. And why wouldn't it? A woman that neither coven nor convent could convert, a woman that neither judge nor jury could convict, a bad woman, neither sinful nor holy, but a law holy unto herself. Everyone remembers where they were that day. It is a requirement for tragedy that a headline makes your head spin, that breaking news actually breaks you, and that everyone remembers what they were doing mere seconds before it happened, that they had just switched off the oven, taken out the muffins, put the kids to bed, were brushing their hair and preparing to sleep before the first gunshot, before the first earth tremor. Similarly, just before you left me, I remember that I had just been thinking about how lovely it would be to spend my entire life with you. What a waste of a lifelong memory. Losing Saint Vincent. When I got saved, I stalked Jesus like a mad woman. I took my hymn book on the bus and sang. I prayed every morning, every afternoon, every evening. At midnight, when sleep evaded me, I spoke to him, fasted for weeks at a time, lost weight, sat in the garden and cried. When I met you, I stalked you that way too. My hymn book said nothing about a Vincent, and so I wrote you a poem a day. I read these poems on my way to work, spoke to you every morning, every evening. Midnight, when sleep evaded me, I wrote songs for you. And then I spoke to Jesus about you. And the church said, Daughter, the fact that bodies are temples is not an excuse to worship there. And so I threw my love for you in the fire like a sacrifice. And I sat beside the ashes and cried. My previous man left Harare for me. He dug up everything that the ground yields. He worked the mines, the fields, and still didn't find his father in 10 years of searching. I said to him, Rudo Rwangu, I reckon we can build you a dad from all of this gold and diamond, anything except this. The calluses, splinter hemorrhages, nicotine stained fingers, years and years of digging, only for people to say, Don't touch me with those hands. I don't know where they've been. I told my best friend, I've had my fill of foreign men. The prayers that are said in my bed at midnight are never in my language. I wake up with apologies that I cannot articulate. And then I met you, where night and day meet, one handing over the light to the other. And on the first day, I wanted to lay with you in sheets as pale as your skin and ask to hold your hand under the covers. I wanted to feel for calluses, splinter hemorrhages. I wanted to see nicotine stained fingers. But your hands are so smooth, too smooth. Have you ever had to dig for anything in your life? I wrote you love poems while the world was burning. I became water and I doused the flames your body was engulfed in. I loaned you my body, charred from the womb, can't burn what is already black. I did not get out in time to save myself. I remember the night that I stayed up to talk to you. It was midnight here, sunset where you are, and I asked you a question. Do I leave my country or do I stay and build a better one? If I want to leave, where do I go? And if I want to build, who has the tools? And you said, Love, I can't speak now. The sky is on fire. But when I looked up, all I saw was ash and embers. Interview questions at the US Embassy. 1. Can you prove you have strong ties to your country? Yes, I am my mother's child. On the phone, she says I sound like I'm not eating. Sorry, what was the question? 2. Please describe the purpose of your intended travel. For my heart. Ma'am, are you planning this trip for heart transplant surgery? Do you need a visa for medical treatment? No, no, I would stretch my heart across the globe to reach his, but no, that's not what I mean. 3. Is there someone who will be responsible for you while you are there? Yes. I write him love songs every day. He sets the clock 6 hours ahead and listens. It's not exactly time travel, but it's the best that we can do for now. 4. Are you planning any terrorist activity on this trip? I don't understand the question. 5. Do you have any questions before you leave? Yes, yes. I saw a headline about an African development summit in America with no Africans present. Can you tell me what was discussed? I mean, I just want to know, what are my chances? 6. Thank you. We will call you. What do you mean? Is my visa approved now? Can I go? Making sense out of absence. So here's a recipe for making sense out of absence. Ingredients: 1 trip to parts of the city you had never seen before him. 1 day off, just 1. 3 questions for him. Are you coming back? Why are there silver streaks in your hair? I should be afraid, shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? 2 memories. His smile. Him saying, "You are so beautiful," and I am leaving in the same breath. Method: mix ingredients and bake for 3 months. Call a friend. I tried the recipe. It didn't work. I added sadness, and I cried so much my face thought it was raining. I grew flowers on my cheeks. Do you have a razor I can use? Was I meant to add the sadness first or last? Special precautions. Do not reheat what is already burning. I have a voice note of you breathing, and it's my favorite song. I want you to know how I cried when you boarded that plane. It's not a cute story. I collapsed on the bathroom tiles. I will not romanticize the grief of seeing you go, so here's the truth. My friend dialed the emergency number on the fridge because I was ugly crying in a locked cubicle. We were all on fire that day. They'll say I loved you for your accent, but listen, I have a voice note of you breathing, and it's on replay. Time zones are traitors. When I needed you at 4 a.m., it was an emergency. But it was not 4 a.m. everywhere, so it was not an emergency everywhere. I want to forgive you, but I need you to apologize. Who are you in your soul at 3 a.m. when nobody is watching? Can I see your scars? Are they shaped like me? I asked you to come back and you crash landed and came back here bruised and gasping. It's not a cute story. We're still on fire. This world is hard and burning us alive, but as long as you're still breathing, there's water. So breathe, please. Stay alive. They'll say I loved you for your accent, but listen, I have a voice note of you breathing, and it's my favorite song. I have a voice note of you breathing, and it's saving my life. All hail the brown bottle. We all ale from the brown bottle. We grow frail from the brown bottle. It tells a tale, this brown bottle. Every afternoon was the same. We heard the rain beating against the dilapidated corrugated iron roof, a sound reminiscent of a drunken husband demanding entrance to his home at night. And in fact, there would be a drunken husband, uncle, brother, friend, son demanding entrance to a house at night, every night. We scoured for buckets, scurried for buckets to place on the tiles so that the rain would not flood the floor. We scurried for buckets, bags, tables, and chairs to place on the floor to block the door because he was a menace when drunk. He was reckless when drunk. He was fearless when drunk. He was careless when drunk. Incoherent, but if he were to chant, this would be his mantra: all hail the brown bottle. We all ale from the brown bottle. We grow frail from the brown bottle. It leaves a trail, this brown bottle. Every evening was the same. We left the dishes piled up in the kitchen sink and fell into bed, knackered from a day of running away from boys who claimed to love us while religiously courting brandy and savannah with their weekly allowances. Incoherent, but if they were to chant, this would be their mantra: all hail the brown bottle. We all ale from the brown bottle. We grow frail from the brown bottle. It tells a tale, this brown bottle. We left the dishes piled up in the kitchen sink and fell into bed with the covers over our heads because we did not want to hear the raising of voices, the breaking of objects, other incomprehensible noises, and above all, the weeping, the endless weeping, because in the morning, we would be the ones to do the sweeping. We would be the ones to do the sweeping of what remained, the shards of glass from those broken brown bottles. And as we began our daily routine, once again echoing in our heads would be last night's refrain: all hail the brown bottle. It has told its tale, this brown bottle. I want the fire without the cult. Small chops and melt at the family reunion and not a sacrifice in sight. No one's daughter a lamb to the slaughter. Skipping school and sentenced to running errands to the bottle store. How many 24s can you get with this week's grocery money, honey? Skipping school, singing, all hail the green bottle. We all fail for the green bottle. It leaves a trail, this green bottle. I want the fire without the cult. No small god called an uncle. with too many faces and none of them with restraint in the mouth, chanting, all hail the green bottle. We get bail with the green bottle. It leaves a trail, this green bottle. I want the gospel without the gun, praise songs without the weeping. I want no woman at the pulpit screaming, howling. I left my daughter sleeping and found her bleeding. I want no border traversed, no innocence lost, no veil torn, no daughter's daughter born to a fallen ankle. Spill the blood of the covenant, spill the water of the womb, spill the contents of the green bottle. Amagugu. The visitors are here. They've come to see Africa, to explore the motherland. They are here with their knotted head wraps, their beaded neck pieces, their leopard print dresses. They're here with their kiss the ground, I am on home soil, diasporic homecoming love for Africa. The visitors are here. They've come to see you at your mother's house. But on you, they will see hospital variety head wraps, post-cervical fracture neck pieces, and leopard print bruises from all the beatings. These are the things you remember about your husband. Nightly beatings, your throat in a chokehold, you choking on fumes from the paraffin stove, the names of your almost children stuck in your throat, misplaced, miscarried, missed by their mother. Visitors, forgive us for our curse the land, infertile soil, dig up our roots, love for Africa. When we reclaimed our land, we did not know we were only claiming space to dig our graves. So we could call the women to come and peel vegetables and sing amagugu while the men eat meat. And our coffins slowly sink into the ground along with our dreams for a better Africa. Oh, where are our manners? Kulu, go and fetch the photo album. Show them Tata's pictures. Roll out the welcome mat. Tato, tip your hat in greeting. This will be a very short meeting. The dead hardly congregate with the living. Amagugu alelizwe ayosale matunin. All precious treasure remains in the grave. Heritage. I am rewriting my mother's story on my face. Do you see the quotation marks holding my smile together? Even my laughter is hers, not mine. Be careful how you say your mother's name, how you articulate your blood. You and your mother were once the same person. You carry a question mark in each ear, born to listen to her. Everything about you says, I'm telling someone else's story. I'm still not sure about my own. Make sure that you are reading the history book being written in your childhood home, collecting recipes too, because age is engraving farewell messages into Mama's skin. How will you sustain yourself when she's gone? The words on her earlier pages are disappearing as you read them. She is forgetting herself. One day, she will not be there. When you turn back to a part of her story that you enjoyed, hoping that she will read it again, hoping to hear her laughter echo across the room as she throws her head back in laughter, in reminiscence. One day, you will not hear her speak, and you will repeat her words to your children just to hear the echo of her voice in yours. Thank you. Thank you.
No, you can't stop there.
Really?
I love them all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I
They
appreciate
were
it.
amazing. But is there more? One or two, something? No? You're done?
Well, I mean, if you insist. For women who have mistaken the offering basket for a chair, in the absence of love, I write poetry. For a man who strokes my arm and like an electric current sends all my body hairs vertical, then says to me, there's too much chemistry for this to be platonic, but I cannot carry all of your love. A man who stands on a balcony with me, points at a starless sky and whispers, there's someone out there for you. Where, I wonder, when even the stars retreat in my presence? Where, when the moon is smaller than it was when I first met him, waxing and waning like the phases of his love? How much smaller then are my prospects of finding the one? I'm writing this for a man who never says no, has a jacket that is both his and mine, a shelf in his wardrobe set aside for me, but has not made space for me in his heart. I will write for him until someone reminds me not to mistake my deathbed for a seat ever again. Until someone reminds me that the offering basket is not a chair. The offering basket is not a chair. The offering basket is not a chair where you have gone to give of yourself over and over again until you had nothing, is not a place to return to and rest your bones. Engagement. This love has washed my body onto a foreign shore, where your name is a song that I sing into my blood. We exchange rings on an island, where the locals ask me for my last name, as if loving you is the end, the last of me. Yes, I am sacrificial. I left home for you, but I am also strong. I would walk on flaming coals for you, but I also know how to extinguish the flame. I bring my love to you with a pitcher of water. If one of these fails to sustain you, reach for the other. I've seen how the moon pulls the sea into obedience, how it tames its alternating highs and lows. I do the same to my longing for you. I let it seesaw, ricochet, never stay still. I love you until there is something left of me. I sprinkle ashes of memory onto fertile soil, hoping a soul will grow there. firm earth for my children to dance on. I write your name in the sand and leave it there for the sea to wash away, reminding me that I will exist even when I am no longer called yours. I am sacrificial, but I am also strong. I know better than to love you to death. Feeding scheme love. Where did you learn to love with open palms? Not at home. Mom taught you to pray with your hands clasped together. Even babies clench their fists. Why don't you? Where did you learn to love this way? So hungry, so desperate, so weak. Who taught you that love was a feeding scheme cue? Who said that time was served in spoonfuls? How much do you need? An hour, a day, a lifetime with him? Who taught you that space can be gift wrapped and given as a present? How much do you need? A room, a house, the universe? Let us learn together. When he said he had space for you, he meant a seat on a bus that would never arrive. And time meant that he would feel no remorse when you finally realized that neither his clock nor his calendar knew you by name. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkateko. That was such a beautiful reading. I've written down all these bits and bobs of the phrases that you, yeah, the phrases that just jumped out there. Yeah, there's fantastic poetry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a message from Georgia in the chat. Georgia is saying, thank you for a wonderful reading. And I can't stay for the full session. See you next time. Thank you so much for being here, Georgia. I really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's
And
so
Keith
cool.
says, I've been fighting with bad internet connection during this reading, but I refuse to miss this reading. Thank you for sharing your poetry. I'm in awe of your work. I was born in June and write about that wintry month a lot. I smiled when in your poem June was swallowed and the year ended. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Keith. This is so lovely. Oh, and there's a question as well. So I guess I'll address that in the open mic. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, Megan. I
No,
wanted
no.
to
Not at all. I think you should answer the question now because basically after your reading, it's an opportunity to do a little bit of a Q&A
Okay.
if you're comfortable. And yeah, so I mean, if there's a question, please go ahead.
Okay, so Keith's question is, please, can you maybe talk about making sense out of absence? Why a recipe? What have you learned about the concept of absence? Also, I can't promise to not worship the temple that is the body. As a poet, it feels difficult to move away from the body. That is so true. That is so true. I resonate a lot with that. I think that the body is, and I think with that poem, what I was trying to convey there was also, and I think what I have been trying to understand is just this. I grew up in a very Christian home, very, very Christian home, and the deconstruction of my own Christianity, because everything that is taught there is the body is sacred, the body is a temple, and sort of I have a bunch of tattoos, and now I have done the complete opposite of what the church says about honoring the temple that is the body, you know. So I think that in all of my poems, I'm trying to make sense of things. And so when you're asking about making sense out of absence, this particular person that I had been in a relationship with, um, who is the subject of the poems about this long distance love and longing. And so there was a time where he had gone back home to the US and I was in South Africa, and I was trying to make sense out of absence. And I think the concept of a recipe for me is that baking is very, very therapeutic for me. Baking is the thing that I do. I don't need to even think when I'm baking. It's sort of like it's a mindless thing that I do that calms me. It, I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm baking, it's like my mind starts humming and there's this constant hum. And I feel like I can get things done. It's so I, in that moment, in that period where I was trying to make sense of his absence, I was also baking. And so it just came to me that, well, here's a recipe for making sense out of absence. Because what am I making essentially in this time? There was nothing that excited me. There was nothing that I was really looking forward to, because it was now probably about 6 months until we could see each other again. And so I just felt like, well, the only thing I can make is sense out of absence. So let's see how we can put that together. And so that's where that poem came from. What have you learned about the concept of absence? Ooh, that is a really tough question. I think for me, absence in the context of loved ones is where I feel it most deeply. The absence of someone that I care about a lot, not always in a romantic context, but also just like family. When I lost my grandmother, that was that absence was probably the hardest absence I've ever felt. It's a void, right? And I think when anything is empty, when anything doesn't make sense to me, then I want to make sense of it. And so I think that is what I was trying to do with making sense out of absence. Essentially, it didn't make sense to me. The absence didn't make sense to me, and so I had to create something. I think that as poets, we try and fill in the silences, right? And it's not always with words. And that's why there's that the other poem about just having a voice note of someone just breathing and that being what sustains you, because it's not always words. Sometimes it's just the hum, sometimes it's the sound of someone breathing that just regulates you. And yeah, so I hope I've answered the question sufficiently. But thank you. That is a really lovely question.
I thought there were I'm sure there are other people who want to say something, and if you want to ask a question, I'm talking down to Caroline, Georgia, and Keith. Please either use the chat or raise your hand. I'm just going to jump in. I mean, amazing poems about love and when love goes wrong, and all sorts of fantastic things. But um, I just want to talk about the U.S. Embassy questions poem. I mean, as a South African, this is an experience that one has when you travel, right? It's this absolute diminishment of your humanity, really. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful and clear and angry way of kind of thinking about that experience. Uh, yeah, and then I think it was that poem where you used the phrase, I grew flowers on my cheeks. I'm not sure. I wrote down phrases, but yeah, it was just so beautiful the way that you described it and then the way that you kind of talked back to the person who was asking the questions of you. And do you think that that talking back is something that you are doing with your poetry? I mean, I imagine obviously that it is. Can you talk a bit about that, perhaps?
Yeah. Ooh, interview questions at the US Embassy. The visa application process has always felt like such a dehumanizing experience, a sort of humiliation ritual in a way, because, and I mean, as a South African, like you said, there's so much. You go with a stack of paperwork like this just to prove that you are worthy to go to this other country. And it's painful. And I think there's, for me, that experience of at the time being in a relationship with someone who doesn't understand that, because for them, they can travel anywhere they want to, no problem, no questions asked. It's just, yeah. And so I think just that whole um experience of me being the one struggling to try and make it to the other side and go and see this person is difficult. So I think also with poems like um While the World Was Burning, where I was saying that it was midnight here and sunset where my partner was, it the that time difference is not a literal, it's not really literally reflecting on the time distance, but just the difference in our lived experiences, the difference in our realities, because there are certain things that I experience because of who I am and where I'm from that the other person doesn't and can't relate to. And so I think the talking back is always me trying to fill. Sometimes I don't hear what I want to hear from the other person, right? And so I will write maybe what I would have preferred to hear, or I will write exactly what they said and just be outraged by it. So I think the talking back is my way, like I said in response to the question that Keith asked, that um I'm trying to make sense of things. And so even in this with the interview questions at the US Embassy, I was trying to make sense of that experience because it's not literally how it went, but it is how it felt, right? It is how it felt, and it is how the things that I wanted to say that I obviously couldn't, because it just it the humiliation of it, that is the feeling. So the essence that I wanted to bring into the poem was that feeling of feeling so unworthy and not good enough to board this plane and go and see someone that I love. So yeah, I talk back to make sense. I talk back to ask questions. And what you were saying, the one about growing flowers on my cheeks, that was from the recipe. Yeah, so that was from the how to make sense out of absence.
Mm. Yeah, I thought you had amazing images throughout your poems. The moon pulls the sea into obedience. I mean, it's just amazing. Like it just kind of hits you. Amazing stuff. Yeah, I really love it. So I'll keep quiet now and other people can have a chance if they've got questions. Um, yeah, I've got more questions if they don't have questions. We will finish up the Q&A fairly soon, I think. But um, yeah, the one thing I really wanted to ask you about was I guess I was just noticing the kind of the way you were playing with rhyme and with rhythm. I mean, it's obviously part of poetry, but there was such a lot of interesting rhymes that you used. Like, I mean, I haven't got the right poems now, but there was saving and craving and cursed and pursed. Like, does it come naturally? Is it something you've been doing long? Is it something you're kind of hunting for? Can you just talk about that aspect of your writing?
So that was from the Find Me poem, right? And there's the first half of the poem that is reflecting on me as this very, very deeply religious woman and growing up in the church and being taught that this is how you have to be in order to, uh, I guess, be chosen, right? To be chosen. I think that was the whole concept of it when I was still in that phase and just sort of being conditioned to seek love um, through obedience, through being very, very religious and praying and fasting and all of those things. And I think the rhyme comes from that sort of rigidity, the rigidity of the system that I was under because everything just had to be just right. It had to be saving and craving and it had to be everything had to be in order. And with that poem, you'll see that with the second half of it, things tend to be a little more free on the other side of it when I become feral, godless, and lawless. It's the dismantling of the rhyme, it's the dismantling of the order and the system. So with that particular poem, I think what I wanted to show was that there is a certain version of me that was boxed in and had to comply. And with compliance comes a very neat way of being, right? It rhymes, it's in it's in iambic pentameter. But then when you start to live for yourself and you're not trying to follow all these rules where it's just I, and Keith was saying about the swallowing the earth in June, ending the year midway, and birthing the planet anew. I think that was for me that rebirth of myself. I think that it was an acknowledgement of me, like an acknowledgement of the fact that I existed outside of those boundaries and outside of that system that I had been told this is the way that a woman should behave, this is what a woman should and should not do, right? And so stepping out of that and now feeling like I can do what I want. I can end the year in June if I want to. And yeah, yeah, so the rhyme was just to demonstrate the shift
Mm.
from very methodical, very rigid ways of being to actually being a bad woman if I want to be a bad woman.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. And I guess if I saw it on the page, I might have picked it up. Yeah. Um, I thought the rhythmic aspects of the poem about the brown bottle were also interesting. You were playing with ale and tail and so on. But we've also got somebody else's question here, I think. Keith.
The conversation with and appropriation of biblical texts and characters are clear. Whose work do you look to? So, I mean, I was the Bible quiz champion back in back in my Sunday school days, and I remember every year there used to be a district camp, and they would always, so that at the district camp it's all of the churches from the different districts, and I would be the one representing my district at the Bible quiz, and I would win every single year. So I knew my Bible back to front, all of it. I knew it. You could wake me up at 3 in the morning and ask me who was the oldest man in the Bible, and I would say it was Methuselah, and I would tell you how old he was. And he was 800 and something years old. Now I can't remember, but at the time, you could not tell me anything. So I think that the Bible itself, even even in the process of deconstructing, remained a major influence. And there used to be a group of Christian poets that I used to look up to. So there's genetics. There's this poet named Genetics. So uh it's with a J, it's Janet, and then like ellipsis, Jeanette X. So she was actually one of those Christian poets whose work I really, really loved. And she used to have poems about finding like a spiritual, like a godly man, yes. And so I think that was in my earlier years, one of the influences for poems such as Losing St. Vincent, because that's where I'd learned that sort of phrasing of um, sort of finding these connections between how much I was supposed to love Jesus with how much I loved this man. So it was now this parallel of like, I don't love him, I worship him. It's everything is just very intense and everything is just, yeah. So I think for me, it was definitely those Christian poets like Genetics. There was also a group in South Africa called the Pen Seed Poets. I remember I used to go to their open mics, and there was one poet, Given Illustrative Masilela. He was one of my favorite South African Christian poets. So I'd say when it comes to the biblical texts, it was the Christian poets who influenced me. And then I think during the deconstruction, I started reading everything. That's when my mind sort of opened to the fact that there are texts beyond the Bible, and yeah. So there has been that shift in influences since that time.
Mm, sure. That's so interesting. Um, if everyone has asked the questions they want to ask, I think I'm going to end the Q&A there, although reluctantly, in case we have people who would like to share their poetry in the open mic. So, Nkateko, I'm really grateful for you sharing such a wonderful body of work with us. And yeah, lovely, beautiful reading. And if you can tell us where most of those poems are they published in the latest book, the Daughter Wound, is it?
No, these poems are not in Daughter Wound. So some of them are in A War Within the Blood. Some of them are in While the World Was Burning. So these are my chapbooks from the early years. And then the brown bottle and green bottle poem, those are not published. They were actually poems that I wrote. They were commissioned for the Global Alcohol Policy Conference that I attended a couple of years ago in Cape Town. So I was invited as a speaker or a poet to comment on the state of South Africa in the context of gender-based violence and alcohol abuse. And so these poems, the brown bottle poem and the green bottle poem, they were commissioned for that specific project. So yeah.
Sure. And still very powerful despite being commissioned, or perhaps because of being commissioned. I don't know.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much. Uh, um, can I ask whether Georgia or Keith would like to share something of their own or something of someone else's with us, perhaps? It's a very safe space if you want to. No, be brave. Okay, so I think we've got people who are shy. So I'm going to stop the recording there then, I think.